Welcome everybody to today's presentation on tips and support for neurodivergent job seekers and unlocking your potential, presented by Career Services. Next slide. So your presenters today, my name is DJ. I am a career counselor here at Career Services. I'm also a graduate student in the clinical mental health counseling program. And then we also have Alexis, who is another career counselor who will be here helping out in the chat and everything. So if you guys have any questions, any comments, anything like that, put them in the chat and Alexis will let me know. Okay. Next slide. All right. So today's agenda, just a quick little glance at it. We're going to introduce the idea of being neurodivergent. What is the job search process going to look like? Interviewing, disclosing to an employer. That's a big question I get from students all the time. We're going to talk about that. Preparing for job fairs, and then some resources that we have on campus and off campus. And like I said, if you have any questions, for our one person in the audience, if you have a question, just raise your hand. And then everyone else, just put it in the chat. We'll get to it whenever we can. Okay, so now we're going to talk about, so we're going to give some definitions. Neurotypical. This describes people whose brain functions are consistent with what is considered typical or standard in society. I want some people to let me know, what do they think that looks like? What do they think the societal standards of being neurotypical looks like to them? Yeah. Based off of what they've seen or what they've heard from what they've seen in media, anything like that. Nothing. Yeah, it is a tough question because, in my opinion, I don't know if there is a such thing as neurotypical. I think all of our brains function a little bit differently from everybody. Even those of us that are neurodivergent, which I'll get to that definition, there's so many different ways of being neurodivergent that even those that are neurotypical, I don't know if it exists. That's my personal opinion. It may be out there, but I just think everyone is completely different. The way that we do things is different. Even those of us with similar things going on, we still do things differently. So being neurodivergent, though, that describes an individual whose brain functions a little bit differently than what's considered typical or neurotypical. Basically, they process information differently, not incorrectly. Just because it may take you a little bit longer to understand a certain project or understand instructions, or you need more clearly written instructions, doesn't mean that you're doing it wrong. You're just doing it a little bit differently. Okay. And then there's neurodiversity, which is a natural variety of minds across populations. Everyone thinks differently, like I said. So some examples of neurodivergencies: anxiety, very popular with the kids nowadays, ADHD, dyslexia, autism, OCD, Tourette's, sensory processing, and a whole bunch more. Like I said, there is a breadth of neurodivergencies that exist out there. Next slide. All right. So one of the big things with being a neurodivergent individual is understanding that what comes with that is a lot of really good positive stuff. Do you have some barriers that can get in the way sometimes? Absolutely. But along with those barriers, it also creates a lot of these really positive skill sets. And it's important to recognize these as a neurodivergent individual because you can tailor it to yourself and tailor it to the jobs that you're going to be applying to. So knowing what you're great at can help you find roles that match your skills and increase your confidence in interviews. So I want you guys to take a look at this list and see if any of these skills are ones that you guys might identify with yourself, right? Logical and analytical. Sometimes we hear someone say something and we're like, I don't know if that's really how it is. And I think we need to look more into that. Pattern recognition, seeing when things are happening over and over again. Sometimes when you're neurodivergent, you're able to pick up on that really quickly. Creative thinking. Us neurodivergent folks, we are some of the most creative individuals you'll ever meet. The attention to detail, tolerance for repetition, being hyper focused, really honing in on one thing. Multitasking. A lot of people say they're really good at multitasking. They're usually not. They're usually focusing half of their attention on two different things. But some of us neurodivergent folks, we can focus full attention on two or three things at a time. Commitment to accuracy. Resilience is a big one because, like I said, we have obstacles that we need to overcome sometimes, depending on what our neurodivergency is. And so, because of that, that makes us stronger for it. And then advocacy. We know the struggles. We know how to advocate for each other. So, let's talk about the job search and what that could look like. So, one of the big things that I recommend doing is look for inclusive employers. And there's a few different ways to go about that. Literally just a Google search can be good. But also just going to the company's websites, reaching out to individuals that may work for that company or people that you may know at that company, anything like that. Also, look for job postings that are clear and detailed. A lot of job postings on the internet nowadays, they're kind of vague. So you'll see, it'll say project manager, and then give a very vague description of what that looks like. And it's like, wow, it says managing projects. What is that? And other tasks, yes. And it's like, okay, what does that actually look like? What am I going to be doing as a project manager? So you want to try to find ones that have clear and concise details about what the job actually does. Filter by companies known for accessibility, accommodations, and inclusions. Again, this is going to be a little bit of research. We've got a couple of resources we'll show at the very end of this presentation for you guys to utilize in this process as well. Use tools and resources that work for you. Like I said, we'll touch on that. Job search platforms. Use ones that allow customization or filters. So a lot of job board websites, they use this, places like LinkedIn, Indeed, Handshake, Career Shift. They have abilities for you to actually filter out what it is that you're looking for in a specific career or in a specific job. So definitely utilize those filters whenever you're going through. It's also going to help just narrow down your search overall. Use assistive tech. Oh my God, assistive tech, text-to-speech, screen reader, scheduling apps, noise canceling headphones. Whatever it is that's going to help you, right? Don't be afraid to use these things in order to better assist you in trying to help you find a job. And then time management tools, calendars, timers, and reminder apps to structure tasks. So, can you go back for a second? So self-disclosure, I have ADD. I was diagnosed with it a few years ago. And so because of that, during my first couple of years of my undergrad, I struggled. I struggled to stay on task. I struggled to turn in assignments on time because I was all over the place in the way that my brain was thinking. Once I bought a physical planner for myself and I started to really organize when assignments were due, when I have important dates or deadlines that I need to meet, different things like that, my grades went up. Everything just got more organized. And so everything improved because of that. So I highly recommend time management tools. Even if you don't have ADD, just having these time management tools can be extremely beneficial, especially as a student. Because as a student, you're juggling school, but also your life itself and your job, your relationship, all of these different things that you have to take care of. Having something to help with that time management can be really beneficial. Hi, welcome. Next slide. Okay, so some things to consider when looking for a job. Look for a workplace that supports your needs. So sensory-friendly environments. So companies that may offer quiet spaces or allow noise-canceling headphones, that can be important. Allow modifications to your work uniforms. Those are just some of the examples of sensory-friendly environments to look out for. Communication and company culture. Seek employers who value clear, direct communication and provide structured instructions. And then look for companies that provide advance notice for changes and offer explanations when plans shift. These are some of the example questions that you could potentially ask employers in order to kind of gauge some of this stuff here. Okay. You can also, again, reach out to people who work for those companies, or if you know someone that works for those companies, really talk to them and say, hey, what does it look like here for someone like me? Okay. But you can ask them, can you tell me about the work environment here, and see if they say anything in regards to these. And if they don't, you want to find out a little bit more information. We're going to talk about disclosing, but that's potentially something that you could do, is maybe dig a little bit deeper with it. How do managers communicate expectations and provide feedback? That's a really good question, just I think in general to ask. So next slide. Okay. Do I have to tell employers I'm neurodivergent? This is probably the number one question I get from students. And the answer is, for the most part, no, you do not. If you do not want to, you do not have to. So you might choose to share, though, if you need an accommodation. So if you're someone who maybe you take a little bit of extra time working on certain projects and you need that may be something to disclose, instead of them finding out when you start the job and you're constantly turning in things late and everything. If you want to be open about who you are, there's a lot of people with neurodivergencies that they're like, this is a part of who I am, and I don't want to hide that from people. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with doing that. Okay. If that's something that you feel comfortable disclosing and that you're proud of disclosing, absolutely go through and do it. And then if the company is known to be inclusive, so like I said, if you've done your research in the past, looking up all these different companies and what they offer and how inclusive they are when it comes to this kind of stuff, if they are someone that you know is a little bit more inclusive, if you want to disclose, go ahead and self-disclose. So when to think about this stuff, though, before the interview, think about, is this something that I think is going to be necessary to disclose to them as you're preparing for the interview itself. During the interview, same thing. They may ask you some questions and you may have to think on the spot, is this the time for me to say something? Okay. And then after getting hired, sometimes this can be a really good moment to potentially self-disclose. And if you're getting the job offer, you're also more protected because of the Americans with Disabilities Act, a civil rights law that prohibits discrimination against individuals with disabilities. So if you get the job offer and they say something, they're like, hey, you got the job, congratulations. You're like, okay, awesome. Hey, I just want to let you know I do need this accommodation for this thing. And they go, well, actually, we're going to move on and find someone else. Lawyer up. Lawyer up. What is that? Yes, someone's raising their hand.
Feel free to unmute or write your question in the chat.
All right. While they're typing in their question, if they have one, this is something that we do recommend trying to practice, right? And that's just with interviewing in general. Interviewing is absolutely something that I think you guys should be practicing whenever you have the opportunity to do so, which we'll talk a little bit more about as well. So, next slide. Yes. So that's an accommodation that you're going to need and that you'll probably have to disclose with the employer whenever you get, whenever you have that interview process with them. Okay. Yeah, good question though. All right. Preparing for an interview. Prepare for common interview questions and practice responses. You can find lists all over the place of of general interview questions. We also have a list here at Career Services that we're able to provide you as well of general interview questions. You know, those questions like, tell me a little bit about yourself. Why should we hire you? What's your greatest strength? What's your greatest weakness? Different things like that. Those are absolutely things to keep in mind. And also look up questions for your field that you'll be applying to. What are some common questions within that? We do have VMOC as well, which is a resource that we offer here at UCF. If you go to the Career Services webpage, you can access it. VMOC also has a lot of those questions listed as well that you're able to actually go through and practice. Let's see, use scripts or bullet points to help stay on track. This is, in my opinion, this is a little bit more for virtual interviews. You're able to maybe get away with this a little bit more. If you come in with just notes of things in an in-person interview and be like, oh, I'm taking notes, and then you have this piece of paper in front of you, but then you don't even write anything down, they're going to be like, where did you do this? You don't even have a pen with you. How did you do this? Bullet points, I think, are a little bit more helpful in the situation as well, because sometimes a script can be, you don't want to look like you're reading off of something or that you're trying to memorize certain things. I think having those bullet points, though, of like those questions that you've prepared, if you have it on like a sticky note or a postcard, whatever, kind of ducked off, and you're able to glance down really quick at that note and kind of get an idea of what it is you want to say. I think that can be really helpful. Yes.
For grading, like disclosure of a disability?
That is a great question. Yeah, I don't know if VMOC specifically has anything. Are they talking about? Yeah, you can definitely receive feedback on that. What do you think about VMOC? Disclose, like if you disclose something, will VMOC give you feedback on that?
It's not that level.
Yeah.
Plus, not even that, but I mean, artificial intelligence is only going to give what's programmed into it.
Right.
So it's not going to give me that human element of that question regarding a physical or other type of condition that may have an impact on your work. And that's not something that's usually asked outright in an interview. It's not very common. It's actually against EOE guidelines to ask that question.
Yeah.
And when I say EOE guidelines, I'm talking about in the United States, we have a specific group of human resources law that requires interviews to not be discriminatory in any way, meaning they can't ask questions that relate to your personal self or condition, meaning asking if you're married or have children or have a partner or what have you. They can't ask questions about your personal background.
Right.
Because they can't factor that into making a decision on whether they want to move you forward.
Yeah.
And it's no different than asking about a accessibility related condition. That's not something that would be asked in an interview. Now, going back to what you said earlier, if there's an application form, that may be the only space where you might see a question in relation to something, but it'll be tied more to the law around it, meaning, do you need accommodations?
Oh,
Is there a disability piece?
The student
That's
said
different.
sometimes they have AI record you for interviews.
Oh,
instead of
yeah.
actually talking to them.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yes. There are some private industries that do that. I'll let you
So
know.
I think if a company were to have AI, then you would, I feel like for disclosure, you would do exactly what you said, wait until after you've received the offer and then disclose.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. I agree. I think honestly, treat it just like a regular interview with an actual person. Especially if it is going to be something that the employer is going to end up seeing anyways. Just treat it the exact same way that you would with a regular interview. Okay. But Brian, you did bring up a good point too of they're not going to ask you this. They legally cannot ask you about these things. So it is going to be up to you whether or not you think it will be necessary to self-disclose or not. Okay. All right, where was I? Practice highlighting your skills in ways that align with your authentic self. So back to that slide in the beginning that we talked about, the list of strengths that we neurodivergent individuals will have over someone who may be more neurotypical, if that does exist. that's going to be important to really focus and hone in on too. Because it's also a great way to go, hey, again, I have this thing that maybe does require accommodation, or I have this thing to where I am a little bit, or I process things a little bit differently. So it may look a little bit slower to you, but this is how I can overcome that, if you want to view it that way, or this is just how, look at the strength that I've gotten from this, essentially. Okay. And then practice mock interviews with a trusted friend, a coach, or career services. We're pretty good. So interviewing is a skill that you have to practice. Okay. It is absolutely something to practice. There are some people that are naturally good at interviewing, sure. And then there's others that they think they're good and they're complete garbage. Okay. So it's something that you do have to practice over and over again. Okay. Even if you think you're good at it, still practice it. Okay. Because sometimes a good interview can be, that can be what ends up getting you the job. Let's say there's two people that submit a resume. One of them, they look like the best candidate ever. They have all the qualified experience. The other candidate, they look pretty good, right? They look good enough to get an interview. The first person with the amazing resume, they bombed the interview. They're terrible, they're cocky, they're arrogant, whatever the case is. The second person that's pretty good, if they nail that interview and they do a better job than that person with the better looking resume, that person that nailed the interview is probably going to get the job. Okay. So keep that in mind. And it's also, keep in mind, it's normal to feel nervous and not succeed every time. Okay. There's going to be bumps in the road. There's going to be rejections, which we'll talk a little bit more about that. There's going to be times where you felt like you didn't live up to the standards that you set for yourself for the interview, whatever the case is. Feeling nervous before an interview, it's going to happen. Okay. I started off here as a graduate assistant, moved into a full-time role, still had an interview for the role. I was super nervous. Even though I knew everybody that was interviewing me, I had confidence that I was going to get the position. I still scared. So just keep that in mind. Practice, practice, practice when it comes to interviewing. Okay, next slide. All right, preparing for job fairs. So who knew that we have a career and internship expo coming up on October 1st? Awesome. Three out of 5 people in the room. Awesome. Hopefully online, you're also aware of it. And tomorrow, yes, we have the Work Where You Learn Fair, which I was going to talk about as well. Tomorrow we have the Work Where You Learn Fair as well. That is going to be on-campus job opportunities, essentially. We're going to have departments from all over campus coming. It's going to be a great opportunity for you to come and meet with them and find out about any opportunities that may be present right now. That one, the one tomorrow, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to prepare for because it is tomorrow, but still try to attend it, try to prepare for it if you're able to. But the big one in October, that's one that we have over 200 employers usually show up, 3,000 to 4,000 students show up. It's a very big event, but it can also be a very intimidating event because of all those people that are going to be there. So it's good to try to prepare for them in the best way possible. So most job fairs, they list attending employers online. Okay. If you go to the events section on your Handshake account, that's going to be over on the left-hand side of it, and then you find the Career Expo that's listed on there, you can actually look at the list of employers that are going to be showing up that we have registered so far. Okay. So what you can then do is do research on these employers, like we talked about on multiple slides. Do research on some of these employers and see if they are going to be inclusive when it comes to something like this. See if if it is going to be a place that you would want to work for, that you feel comfortable working at with whatever your neurodivergency is. Take a look at their values too. Do they mention diversity, inclusion, or neurodiversity? Is that going to be something how important is that to them? Okay. Look for roles that match your interests and skills, looking at the different employers. Look at their application process. Sometimes a lot of these employers, they'll have applications already posted on their website before they come to the career fair. So that's a great opportunity to go ahead and apply to the position and then go in and talk to the people that are going to be there and put a face to a name. Introduce yourself, show them who you are when you go. Bring copies of your resume. I typically recommend 2 to 3 copies of your resume per employer that you plan on talking to. If you don't have a set number in your head, 15 to 20 copies of your resume, I think is usually pretty good to have. Have a plan. Map out where you want to go, what you want to say, and when you want to take breaks. Okay, so our career fair it's from 12:30 to 4:30, but I think 12:30 is for people with a fast pass. It opens at 1. Okay, it opens at 1 o'clock for everybody else. So it's a 3.5 hour to 4 hour event. Yes. So the fast pass, it's going to be an opportunity for you to get into the expo 30 minutes earlier. So it allows you to be able to be one of the first ones to go talk to whatever employer it is that you want to talk to. Do you want to talk about how they can get fast passes?
Just by attending one of our various career readiness events. And if you go into Handshake, go under events and just go under the search area and just type in the term career readiness or even industry days. A number of the events, basically, we have the industry days events are cool because we actually have a couple of the employers who are going to be at the fair. They come early in a much smaller capacity just to kind of give help and support and maybe give you some critique of your resume and say, hey, maybe you want to accent this a little bit more before you come to the fair in the next couple of weeks. Or maybe you get a chance to practice how you would introduce yourself when you walked up to the table at the fair. So it's always good to do that, as we said before with interviews, that practice and being able to practice with people that will actually be there at the fair. It also helps kind of cut down a little bit on that anxiety because you've then met a couple of those actual people you're going to meet at the fair. So it doesn't feel as overwhelming. And those events are all listed on Handshake. You just attend one of those and then you come back and we give you actually a physical fast pass. I think we're even laminating them this year. And it's a physical kind of like, looks like a old school for a lot of students now, but it's like an old concert looking ticket, if you will, for you see some of your parents or such have, right? But basically you'll show that on the day of and you'll check in and get right in a half an hour earlier.
It could also be a good option if you want to go during a time where there's going to be less students in the arena. So there's going to be less noise, less traffic, and so it won't be as loud and overstimulating. There is this one presentation that goes over how to get the fast pass and what the actual events, times, and dates are for each of those.
Thank you. Thank you, both of you, for all of that wonderful information and insight. Also, when it comes to like mapping out where you want to go, there will be actual maps provided. So you're actually able to pick out, okay, I want to hit up these 5 places. So I need to go here first, here first, here first, blah, blah, blah. Practice your short introduction, your elevator pitch, whatever you want to call it. Include your name, your skills and interests, what kind of work you're looking for. The example on here, hello, I'm Alex. I recently completed a certificate in IT support. I enjoy solving technical problems and helping others use tech effectively. I'm looking for an entry-level role in help desk or support, just as kind of an example. You can also mention if you're working on your degree and what your degree is, and then any experiences that you may also have related to the company or to speaking with, okay? So again, you can practice all of this stuff at career services during our drop-ins, which we had today. We won't have them tomorrow, but we have a virtual option on Friday. And I'll talk more about that when we get closer to the end. Or you can make an appointment. So, all right, at the job fair, when you actually get there, focus on, we'll communicate your strengths clearly, focus on what you can do rather than explaining limitations. Again, talking about those strengths that you get from being a neurodivergent individual. Focus on that, not the accommodations that you need or something. If comfortable, briefly mention neurodivergence in terms of strength. I have a strong attention to detail and excel with repetitive tasks. Hi, welcome. No, you're good. Ask clarifying questions. If you're unsure of what a recruiter is asking, it's okay to let them know. I don't know what the heck you said. Don't say it like that. But say something like, yeah, could you rephrase that? Or I want to make sure I understand you. Can you explain it a little bit more to me? Make sure to take breaks often. Bring noise canceling headphones, fidget toys, step outside or find a quiet corner when you need to decompress. Like I said, these are big events. There's a lot of people. It can be overwhelming. Even working there, I'm overwhelmed. I'm like, man, this is too many students. So sometimes you do need to take a break and just step away for a moment. I I know we were trying to get like a quiet corner. It's
It will have
okay.
So at the career fair, there will be a career readiness reception with career services staff, and we'll be there to help you prepare your short introduction. But then also we'll have things like hairspray, combs for you to check, make sure you look nice. And we'll also have earbuds, so like the orange foam earbuds. So if you forgot your noise canceling headphones or it was louder than you were expecting, we can give you a pair for you to keep, and you can put them in for the expo. Yes, you have a question?
So it wouldn't be obnoxious to like go to the event with like my headphones.
Do you plan on wearing them when you talk to employers?
No.
Things like that?
Okay, if you're just walking around the venue, like sort of
Yeah.
figuring out the space and mapping it out, you can absolutely wear them. I would recommend maybe taking them off right when you talk to employers, and you can still have those the foam like ones that aren't visible when you're talking to employers.
Okay. I don't know
Good
if I'll
question.
keep them. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Good question. All right. The other thing to keep in mind, reflect and regroup. Think about what did you do really good? What are you proud of yourself for doing, right? What felt difficult? And what would you change for next time? Where did you sometimes we do it all the time. We have a conversation with someone, we're like, why did I say that? Why did that come out of my mouth? Right? Or why did I say it in this kind of way? This can be really important. Don't dwell on it, obviously, but it's still important to recognize everything that happened. What did I do right? What did I do? Or what can I do better for next time? And then celebrate any successes or conversations, contacts you made, or even just going. Like I said, this is a big, intimidating event for a lot of people. And so even if you go and you're there for 30 minutes and you're like, yo, I got to dip, this is too much, congratulate yourself, celebrate that, right? Go buy yourself a piece of candy or something. Do whatever it is that's gonna make you happy for being like, I did this. I overcame this thing that I've been so scared of, and I was able to do it. Yeah,
What
yeah, go ahead.
job qualify for based on experience level?
Say that one more time.
What if I don't know what job I can qualify for based on my experience level?
What if I don't know what job I qualify for based off of my experience level? Like, how do I know if I qualify for a job? Are they talking about in perspective to the career fair or just in general? Just in general? Yeah. Looking at the job description, that's going to be the number one place or the number one way to figure that out. Look at the job description either on the job board website or on the company's website and see what it is that they're looking for. Usually what I recommend, look at the minimum qualifications. If you meet those minimum qualifications, because the minimum qualifications, they're like, you have to meet these in order for us to consider you. If you meet those minimum qualifications, but maybe you don't fit all the other ones, still apply to it. Absolutely. Your application can still go through even if you just fit those certain things. Okay. So yeah, good question though. All right, next slide. All right. You don't have to do any of this alone. We're here to help you. Here as in career services. Obviously, you guys have other supports, but I'm talking about us right now. So we offer critiques, resume, cover letter, LinkedIn. Okay. You just come in, we take a look at your resume, and we help you improve it to be the best resume possible. Definitely recommend doing this before the expo as well. That way your resume can be prepared for that. Job search strategies. So we help you develop personalized job search plans. We give you resume tips, application preparation, networking strategies, things like that. And we can help you, if you do have a neurodivergency that you're debating on whether or not you want to disclose it or you want some more preparation geared toward that specifically, absolutely. We can curate the job search appointment to look like whatever you need it to look like. Career assessment and exploration. So explore your interests, your values, your strengths using career assessments and guided conversations to identify potential paths and options. So if you're unsure of what it is that you want to do or like what you want to major in, what jobs you want to do, make an appointment with us and we can talk about it. Yes. What was your question?
I I mean, I hate to say it, but I know I'm quite far behind on a large section of job searching stuff. Is there any general recommendations you have in this department, or is it, you know, just kind of ask someone, drop in, send stuff in when you can?
I would make an appointment with us. That would be my number one recommendation. That way we can really go in depth with that. The job search process is both simple and complicated. And that's weird to say, but that's how it feels. I think learning how to do it properly is the complicated part. Actually doing it can be more simple once you have the tools. So I recommend making an appointment, and then we can definitely go more in depth with that.
Is
Okay.
that through Handshake or is that?
Yes.
an
Yeah,
idea?
that'll be through Handshake. Yeah. All right. And then practice interviews, which is the big one that we talked about a lot. So we can help you prepare for a job or internship. We can give you feedback on your responses, your body language, and we can give you strategies on how to highlight your skill sets. Like I said, practicing an interview is going to be vital to finding a job. Okay. And you can make an appointment, virtual or in person, through Handshake. Okay. Next slide. All right. Dealing with rejection and self-care. We're all going to get rejected in something. We're going to get rejected when it comes to looking for jobs, in our love lives, whatever the case is. But it happens. It's normal. But remember, it's not about your worth. You're not any lesser than because you got rejected. When it comes to jobs specifically, there are an endless number of reasons why you didn't get that job. Okay. It could be they lost funding. They can't fill the position anymore because they can't afford to pay it. It could be they already had a candidate in mind. They just legally have to go through the interview process in some cases. It could be you were the second best candidate by like a hair, and they just found someone that they were like, this one's just a little bit better. Literally an endless number of reasons why you didn't get the position. Okay. So never take it personally because it's a part of the process. You're going to get rejections over and over and over again. And as cliche as this is to say, it only takes one yes. It only takes one person to be like, we really like you. We want to hire you and bring you onto the team. Okay. So one good thing that you can do, reframe it. This one wasn't the right fit, but I am one step closer to the one that is. Okay. You can learn from those rejections as well. Okay. Think about what did I do in the interview process that I can maybe do a little bit differently or do better next time. Make sure you take breaks whenever you're looking for jobs. If you have a bunch of interviews or you're applying to 100 jobs a week, whatever the case may be, take breaks from it. Okay. You don't want to get burned out because sometimes the job search process can feel like a job in and of itself, and it's tiring. It's exhausting. So take a day or two off. You don't have to apply to a job every single day. I understand people's situations are all different. They're going to look a little bit different. Some people are like, I financially need to find a job right away. It's still okay to take that 1 or 2 days for yourself. Okay. Utilize your support networks, your friends, your family, your therapist, or whoever it is that you're able to get in contact with and talk to about what you're going through, what you're dealing with. Utilize those support networks. And we'll talk about like UCF specific ones too. And then continue doing your hobbies and self-care. Okay. Continue to do the things that make you happy, that take your mind off of things, that de-stress you. And also, you want to do things that make you happy and do things that make you healthy as well. So continue to practice good hygiene, get good sleep, exercise, those things, while also continuing the job search process. Next slide. So you guys got this. I know it. Go at your own pace. Okay. Some people, they're like, I can do 200 applications a week and I'm fine. Others are like, I can do 10 applications a week. That's fine. Whatever is going to be best for you. Set realistic goals. 1 to 2 strong applications per week as an example. So if you know you have a couple of jobs that you really want and you really want to hone in on and focus, then just do a couple a week. Okay. Again, you don't have to do 50 or 100 applications every week. Utilize your strengths, ask for support. Remember, you deserve a job that values you for who you are as an individual. Neurodivergent individuals, we bring creativity, attention to detail, and innovative problem solving, and believe in your ability to grow. So reach out to career services and other support systems throughout the process. Okay. Next slide. So these are some resources that we recommend. If anybody wants to take a picture of this or scan any of the QR codes, so you can go directly to the website. The one I'm going to talk about right now is the Student Accessibility Services. This is a department here on campus that is specific for providing accommodations for students. So if you are struggling with anything, whatever the case may be, reach out to Student Accessibility Services. If you need a little bit extra time on your test, or you need some extensions for certain papers, or whatever it is, reach out to them. They are here to help. And they're a great group of people too. I work directly with them. And then some of these other ones, they're various kinds of resources. Some of them are more so about, some of them are just job board websites. And then some of them are just information about being a neurodivergent individual looking for jobs. So thank you guys for being here. I appreciate the attendance. I appreciate you guys participating. So